What I'm asking you to do is build muscle mass for the purposes of longevity and power, because frailty, my doctor friends listening, is real. You see it in the hospital every day. Frailty can be prevented, but you have to actively work on it, because the natural history of time without muscle, without building bone, and high inflammation is frailty.
You are listening to the Pinnacle Podcast, where we empower women in medicine through education, community, and actionable strategies for both the practice and the business of medicine.
Medicine is a lifelong career, and continuing education is crucial for professional development. Pinnacle is the first and only multi-specialty organization dedicated to addressing the challenges that all women in healthcare face.
Welcome to Pinnacle, the elite professional community providing education for women in medicine. At Pinnacle, we challenge you to pave your own path by helping you develop the skills needed to not only stay in medicine, but to excel. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Pinnacle Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Rupa Wong, and today I'm joined by Dr. Vonda Wright for our episode, Tips for Midlife. Dr. Wright is a practicing double board certified orthopedic sports surgeon, author, speaker, researcher, and innovator whose work stands at the intersection of longevity, women's health, and performance. She has been featured in numerous media outlets, including USA Today, as well as the Wall Street Journal, New York Times, and in magazines such as Maxim, Prevention, Fitness. So we're really, really excited to have you here today talking all things midlife and what women can be doing now to institute these daily practices to start working on their health. Thank you so much, Dr. Wright, for joining us today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you. I feel like we've known each other a long time.
I feel like that too. And it's always so interesting. You and I met through social media, and it's always so interesting because I feel like I know you, I watch all of your things, and yet we've never met in person, which seems absolutely amazing.
Weird? Yeah. So it's a good thing.
Exactly. But talking about social media, your message about women and what they should be doing to start to introduce these great habits. You've got a tagline, which I love. I don't think I can say it. Maybe I can say it, but it's
your podcast.
Lift heavy. It's my podcast. Lift heavy bleep. And you could go to Vonda's Instagram to see it, but it's so good. I am a strength heavy weight lifter as well. You might not think I am. I look very petite, but that's exactly why I do it. Yeah. And that message has just blown up. It resonates with so many women. You have like 700,000 Instagram followers. These videos talking about the importance of lean muscle mass have over 5 million views. Talk to me about this message and what you advise women to do and why you think it resonates so much.
Well, I want to step back and tell a story that all the people who are clinicians on listening to this are going to resonate with. You know, as a still practicing orthopedic surgeon, I still take call. Even at my advanced age, I take call. Not that I love it, but I do. And when I am called to the ER to see a woman who has broken her hip, or I visit her on the floor for the first time, I am struck by the fact that I am seeing the future today. I'll say that again. I am seeing the future of vital women like you and me and all your listeners today. When I look at this woman, 80-year-old woman laying in bed, she just broke her hip by falling down in her own kitchen. Wasn't hit by a car. She fell down in her own kitchen. She's laying there in bed. She's in a lot of pain. She's probably incontinent. Her heart may be so questionable in terms of heart disease that the medicine doctors have a hard time clearing her for me to do a procedure. And many times, unfortunately, she has either a touch of dementia or full-on Alzheimer's. So there I am at the foot of her bed, about to make a decision with her family on what to do. And many times these women launch into stories of their past, because here they are in the bed, unrecognizable to themselves, and they just want me to know that they used to be like me, vital, healthy, professional, keeping all the hats on, the plates in the air. Where they are in the future is not who they view themselves. So when I say that I see the future today, I see a future of women who either didn't know how to remain healthy, vital, active, joyful, or were not given all the tools because of medical decisions, which I'll go into now. So I think the reason that my message that we can be healthy, vital, active, joyful long into the foreseeable future, my message and coining of the nomenclature of the musculoskeletal syndrome of menopause, is because we all have mothers. Probably many of our mothers are shrinking. My mother has shrunk. She used to be my height, now she's this height.
Mm-hmm.
Those are all harbingers of our future unless we get in front of it. And so I talk to women my age, I'm 57, who have gone through menopause. I talk to women your age who are in perimenopause. And I talk to women like my millennial daughters, the oldest millennials are now 43, who are living in a critical decade, because with interventions that I'm sure we'll talk about, we can modify our future so that that future that I see today does not have to become us.
That's such a powerful message. And I think so many of us can remember. I remember my grandmother, a lot of
Yes,
Indian women are very petite, and she
yes.
used to say, "Oh, I was 5 feet and now I'm
Yes,
4'10", right? That
right.
shrinking. I so remember that
Yes.
being a part of it. And it's scary to watch
Yeah.
our mothers and to know that could be our eventual future if we don't do something about it.
That's right. It could be, but it doesn't have to be. And so here's another thing that I know about women in general and clinicians in specific is we're not only women in general take care of everybody but themselves. They take care of their families and their partners and their children, their neighbors' children. They take care of everybody at work. But clinicians like you and I also take care of everybody in our lives. So sometimes that leaves very little time or energy or even knowledge on how to take care of ourselves. And so I think we come by this naturally. We're just, we come last, but I contend to everyone, but that we must come first in order to be able to serve the people we want to serve. But there are lots of things we can do, right? So I can go through my laundry list. You can
I
stop
want
me.
it. I want the
Okay.
laundry list, please. We got the time.
Yes. So listen, so for menopause, let's start with the critical decade. I say the critical decade for women is 35 to 45. Now, if we extend it to 30, it's even better, because what happens in the critical decade? Well, you stop laying down bone at 30. So if you're younger than 30 and you have not yet started investing in your mobility and your muscle and your bone health, and I'm going to tell you how to do it, now's the time, because at 30, our bones stop building and laying down in the way that they need to prevent the future that I just described to you from happening, frailty from happening. So how do we get in front of all the things while estrogen is still coursing out of our ovaries every month? Thank God for estrogen and testosterone, which, by the way, are not sex hormones. They're hormones. Women have testosterone, men have testosterone, men have estrogen, women have estrogen. They're hormones. We need to stop assigning a sex to them. They're both important. So what do we need to do? Number one, women in the critical decade need to start learning about what's to come. You need to arrive at perimenopause by 45, knowing in your heart and mind what you are going to do about taking hormone replacement therapy or menopause hormone therapy. You need to decide. You need to be surrounded by science and not be driven by fear and rumor and wives' tales. So the way you do that is you read Estrogen Matters. I wish I had it on my shelf here. I don't see it, but Estrogen Matters by Avram Blooming and Carol Tavares was the book that changed my life and saved me from the inevitable future. Avram Blooming is an oncologist. Carol Tavares is a social scientist. They collected the world's data on the risk and benefits of estradiol and progesterone. And basically, if you want me to give you the bottom line, there are very, very, very few instances where the risks outweigh the benefits for women to take hormone replacement therapy. But every woman deserves to make that decision for herself. And the time to do it is not when you're in the throes of hot flashes, night sweats, brain fog, thinking you're going to die, right? So do it now. The second series of things we're going to do is we're going to start living an anti-inflammatory lifestyle. The largest proportion of this is restoration and sleep and nutrition. So what do I mean when I say nutrition? I should describe what's going to happen to you in menopause, but I'll describe the nutrition first, and then I'll go tell you what's going to happen.
I'm scared, Vonda. I'm scared.
You don't have to be scared. You need to be empowered to do the things that are going to make this better. Because let's start there. I'm going to regress a little bit. Having lived through my 30s, my 40, at 40, when I got out of, I went back to school at 28 to go to medical school. So I got out of my training at 39. And so at 40, I was in the best shape of my life. I had 19% body fat. I was setting personal PRs. I had my only biologic child, and I was starting a big job at the University of Pittsburgh, where I was the team doctor for the University of Pittsburgh football team, a Division I football team. And that does not happen for women. So I say that to say at 40, it was great. And I was burning on all cylinders. At 48, I thought I was going to die because hot flashes, brain sweats, brain fog, night sweats, all the heart palpitations, because I was unprepared. I had not taken the time. But here's what I'm teaching you today. You are not going to arrive there the same way I did, because here's what's beautiful about being 50 and beyond. And maybe you younger women have come upon this younger than I did, but I get to live so authentically now. I do not give 1 second's thought to the mean girls that I've been surrounded with, by competition with other people in my jobs. All of my group of friends now are very high capacity women, presidents of companies, incredibly supportive, right? So I get to be at this point totally authentic, totally indefinable. This is my 57. It's not anybody else. I mean, what is 57 supposed to be? I'm doing Spartan obstacle races and now the second best shape of my life. What is it supposed to be? Well, I get to define it. And so it is an amazing time to live, but only if you prepare. So let's go back, right? 40, I was in the best shape of my life. 48, I thought I was going to die. I had a stress test because my heart was palpitating. It was not until I educated myself that, oh, my ovaries are retiring. I don't have to worry about being fertile anymore. Thank God, because that whole worrying about fertility all the time, and now I don't have to worry, and I get to focus on other things. And I read Estrogen Matters and sifted through the data and decided hormone replacement therapy was right for me. So got on that. And estradiol, and because I have my uterus, micronized progesterone. Then I flipped to an anti-inflammatory diet, which means from a nutritional standpoint, we are focusing on green leafy vegetables. We are focusing on protein, 1 gram of protein per ideal pound. I try to get 130 grams a day. And here's the thing everybody hates. If you are listening to me or you're my patient, I tell you, we will eat no sugar. We will eat no white sugar, no white simple carbs. We will focus our carbohydrate intake on fiber. Women need 30 grams of fiber a day. So I'm not telling you not to eat carbs. For this morning, I ate whole wheat sourdough that I make myself every 2 weeks. We must eliminate sugar for many reasons, but primarily because it's a huge inflammatory. And then as estrogen walks out the door, estrogen is an anti-inflammatory. So without estrogen, you're highly inflamed. And if you're eating sugar on top of it, it's even worse. So that's anti-inflammatory nutrition. And we could go on and on. But anti-inflammatory lifestyle is protecting your sleep and making sure you get recovery time, which is not good. I was a surgical resident for 7 years. There was no sleep and no recovery time. But now I protect my sleep. And so I just did an interview with one of the founders of Whoop, the restoration monitor, the other day, and we talked about the three things to get to the bottom of sleep and restoration. And if you're going to do nothing else, do these three things. Go get up at the same time every day and immediately get enough light, because that sets your circadian rhythm. Part B of number one is go to bed at the same time. Now, when you have a busy household, you have to make this a household thing. Like, I am going to bed at 9:30, whether my house has people in it or not. So protect your sleep-wake times. Number two, our body needs about 14 hours of non-food digestion to restore. So stop eating 3 hours before your bedtime. So for me, that's 6:30. I do not eat late dinners because that interferes with my restoration. And then for midlife women, this is another thing people hate me saying all the time, but there are so many reasons not to drink alcohol, and sleep is one of them. It knocks you out, but it completely disturbs your sleep. And so the whole relaxation culture, and more midlife women are drinking more than ever, that is a misnomer that it relaxes you. It actually prevents you from relaxing in sleep, and it is one of the largest risk factors for cancer, including breast cancer. So think about that, my friends. So that's anti-inflammatory lifestyle. The next thing I talk about, which you already mentioned, is I want you to lift heavy weights. We're taught to lift mamby-pamby pink weights because we don't want to get too big. Well, unless you are focusing on becoming a bodybuilder and a performer, a muscle performer, you're not. But why lift heavy? Why lift 4 reps, 4 sets in the major lifts? Well, by lifting heavy, you are going to stimulate muscle protein synthesis. You are going to rejuvenate your muscle stem cells, which is one of the things we need to do as we're aging. We are going to increase the neuromuscular connections between our brain and our muscles so that more muscle fibers fire at once. And why do we need that? Why do I lift at all? I lift for longevity and for power, because I'm going to do everything I can not to become one of the women who falls down in my own kitchen because I don't have the strength to stand. So lifting heavy, anti-inflammatory nutrition, lifting heavy, making your own HRT decision. And then when it comes to aerobic work, like we have now come out of the time when cardio was king, and where everybody did high intensity interval training 7 days a week. What that gets you is high cortisol and in my office with an orthopedic injury. Now we're recommending base heart rate training, which is based on, in my clinic, because I have a lab in my clinic, lactate threshold, which is the point in your body where you go from burning fat, your mitochondria burning fat, flipping to burning carbohydrates. Our mitochondria, as you remember, are capable of using all 3 substrates, fat, carbs, and protein, to make ATP. We want the metabolic flexibility to be most efficient. Most of us who just like to burn it out in places like Orange Theory, which I used to do, we're skipping zone 2 and 3 and we're going right to zone 4. We become highly trained in an anaerobic threshold, but our baseline metabolic efficiency is lacking. So zone 2, lactate threshold training. So what does that mean if you don't have a lab? So you can roughly estimate it as 181 minus your age. And that's the heart rate that you work out at 3 hours a week. That's not the end of the story. 3 hours a week, 45-minute sessions. Twice a week, you're going to sprint. Now, sprint does not mean looking like Richardson, the who's going to win gold medals for us coming up in the Olympics, or Usain Bolt in the last Olympics. Sprinting is your personal maximum effort. And so when I sprint, here's my example. My zone 2 is done at an incline of 4 and a speed of 4. That's where I keep my heart rate at about 130. When I want to sprint, I punch it up to 11 and I run as fast as my little legs are going to carry me without falling off the back of the treadmill, right?
Yeah.
That gets my heart rate up to about 164, 174. And I just do that for 30 seconds and then completely recover for a couple minutes. And I do that 4 times, a couple times a week. If you really want to get fancy and add to longevity, you do VO2 workouts. Now, I know it sounds like a lot because I've been going on for like 10 minutes now, but when this becomes your lifestyle, it doesn't take any extra time. I mean, I work out less, unless it's a Saturday. Today I'll work out for a couple hours, less than an hour a day, and you get it all in because it's a lifestyle. So I'll stop there. There's a lot. I mean, in fact, here's the deal. Women come down to Orlando and spend a weekend training with us just to teach them how to maximize their midlife.
Oh, that's amazing. I should do that because number
Yeah.
one, you mentioned that magic age of 48 in your personal story.
Yeah.
I mentioned to you earlier, I turned 48 this week. I've
Yes.
not considered anything
Oh, my
done
girlfriend.
as a physician. I just thought that is very far away. That's not going to happen to me for another 10 years. It hasn't even entered my mind until I started listening to your personal story about 48. Like, oh, that's coming up. So I need to start thinking about that.
Yeah.
Number 2, you were talking about the anti-inflammatory nutrition, which is so important, so challenging for me personally. I am a sweet tooth sugar addict. I might not look like it. I had gestational diabetes with my 3rd pregnancy. So already setting that groundwork, right? So I know that that's there. And that is so challenging, but I know extremely important as you're mentioning. And I think for other people who also might have a sweet tooth, I think just making those small changes initially help you get there, because I was a order dessert at every meal person because I have high metabolism. I exercise. I didn't notice initially, especially when I was young. I weighed less than 100 pounds, eating all the sugar all the time, constantly. So some of these bad habits were ingrained when I was young. Indian people in general, like chubby children. I was always a skinny child and told to eat the candy bar, eat the chocolate, because they wanted to fatten me up. But it sets you up for some, I think your brain just gets wired to crave these things.
Yeah, sugar is an addictive substance. It stimulates the parts of the brain that heroin does. But you know what was so instructive for me? You might want to do this now, as we know that when estrogen walks out the door, we become, for no reason at all, more insulin, other than estrogen's walking out the door and the role of estrogen on metabolism, insulin insensitive. And so what I found was, you may like to do this, you like data, is I am not diabetic, but I wore a CGM for a year because I wanted to understand how food affected my blood sugar. And I was appalled the first time I put it on. And my fasting glucose, because I was fully menopausal when I put it on, my fasting glucose was like 99. And I'm like, holy cow, this is too close to pre-diabetic for me to be happy. So I spent a year tracking what activity did to my blood sugar, what foods did, the order I ate my foods, what a surgery day does to me, what getting in a discussion with somebody about healthcare policy, even those stress levels. And here's what happened. By understanding my own data, Rupa, I went from a fasting blood glucose between 90 and 99 to my fasting blood glucose now is in the 80s. And I know when I'm hungry or when I'm hungry, I'm really low blood sugar. I'm sometimes down to 59. And so I know that I'm hungry, not just bored. So I think for those of us who have a prescription pad and have easy access to it, it's a critical tool to figure out our own metabolism.
I think it's so important. I noticed, especially when I had gestational diabetes, when I was checking my blood sugars, and that gave you the data. And it also then allows you to make those changes because you
Mhm.
see the need for those changes.
Yeah.
My sister-in-law, two of my sister-in-laws are endocrinologists. So I actually
Oh,
did a 2-week trial of the
yeah.
CGM
Yeah.
maybe about a year ago, just to see where was I at now, because again, my hemoglobin A1C was in the like
Wow.
5.8 range, was starting to get those
Creep up.
perimenopausal, right, insulin resistance type levels. And but it was really interesting to see. Of course, then I'm going to eat better because I know it's being tracked,
Yes,
right?
that's right.
So that was,
Mhm.
that's just human psychology. But it was
Yeah.
interesting to see. I would get a lot of alerts for the low blood sugar, these dips
Yes.
like all the way down into the 50s. Like, all right,
Yes.
I'm doing some things right already. But it was, I thought that was a great way for me to just start this
Yeah.
journey, a little bit
Yes.
of trying to address that nutritional aspect, which does not come naturally to me at all. And those of people that know me in real life and have had meals with me will know how much I love my ice cream after dinner. So that's something hard for me
Yeah.
to give up. But I think again, just going in moderation and maybe saying once a week you do that, or if you really
Or
need
3
that
bites
craving.
instead of the whole bowl, maybe. Yeah.
Exactly. Just to get to that level, which I think is
Yeah.
awesome. And then the other thing that you mentioned, which I thought was so resonant to me as well. So I've had a trainer for probably about 10 years
Mhm.
because then I feel motivated. I make sure that I'm lifting properly with
Yeah.
good technique.
Mhm.
And I invited one of my female physician friends to come with me to my training session. She's beautiful, lean, very lean. She does a lot of uh, weight bearing, a lot of body strength type exercise like Pilates and yoga. And I
Mhm.
said, we need to be lifting heavy. And she's like, real lean. She said, oh, I don't want to build mass. First of all, I love building mass. Like I feel proud when I can do this
I
and see a
know. Look at
muscle.
your bicep. Yeah.
I love my biceps. I love seeing like all the shoulder. I love that. But she didn't want that. And so the trainer said, you are not going to build all of this muscle mass. It's
Yeah.
such a myth, right?
A complete myth unless you're intentional about it. I mean, unless you're intentional, you will not build the overwhelming big bubble of muscle that I think people are viewing that they will. It's hard to do that. It takes years to do that of hard work. But what people need to understand is I actually don't care what you weigh. I don't.
Mm.
What I care about is your percentage body fat and how much muscle mass you have. Because so when people come to work with me, I call it reconstituting your body, recomposing your body, not let's lose weight. Let's recompose. Because listen, one time is a long time ago, 20 years ago, for some reason, Mercedes Benz sent me to Fashion Week in New York as their guest. I'm like, oh my God, it's a bucket list thing. But when I was there, I saw the first examples in these beautiful women, these models of skinny fat. They were
Mm.
skinny as skinny, but there was no muscle. They were wafer thin. I could have whistled at them and they would have fallen over, right? So what we're asking people to do is not lose weight. What I'm not asking you to do is become like Popeye muscles, if people even remember who he is. What I'm asking you to do is build muscle mass for the purposes of longevity and power. Because frailty, my doctor friends listening, is real. You see it in the hospital every day. Frailty can be prevented, but you have to actively work on it because the natural history of time without muscle, without building bone, and high inflammation is frailty.
Ah, that's such a good point, and I think one that people really need to listen to. And you have also courses and other things, correct, about teaching this.
Yeah, I'm about to have a new book purchased, which is exciting. I've written 5 books on a variety of fitness after 40 I'm just looking at them on my shelf here. Fitness after 40 subjects. What I'm doing right now, which is really exciting, is we're having a midlife retreats For women, I take 30 at a time. And because you can get plenty of information on the internet, but the questions I get most often is exactly how do I lift? Exactly how do I zone 2? So when people come, we're having one in May and August and November. When they come, we teach you. It's not just a vacation, although it is a vacation because it's at a luxury hotel and my office is in a luxury center. But everybody comes with their own plan. And I think that equipping of people is what's critical to get in front of this. So yes, I do that. Thanks for letting me talk about it.
And where do they find out information about that? Where would
Yeah,
people...
so my Instagram page has it. I post all the time about it. They can email me on my Instagram page.
What is one pinnacle pearl for our listeners, women in medicine, that you would offer?
You know what? I'm going to answer it this way. I don't think it's what you're expecting. The pinnacle pearl is two things, although your audience is younger. Number one, there is never an age or skill level when your body will not respond to the good stress you put on it. So even if you're doing nothing right now, even if you haven't done anything since the start of your residency because you've just been too busy with everybody else's care, if you start today, your body will respond. Number two, this is the most important one. You are worth the daily investment in your health. You are worth it. Nothing is more worth it. I mean, I think we as physicians and women, we put value on everybody else, but you are worth it. And you should think of your health as the money you spend on it as an investment. It is a need, not a want, like a purse or curtains or a new dress. That is a want. Your health expenditures is an investment and it is a need. So we prioritize that first because you're worth it.
That's wonderful advice. I like both, but that second one I think is what many women need to hear right now. Vonda, can you share your handles where people can find you?
Oh, of course. So I am active every single day on Instagram and it's at Dr. Vonda Wright. And that spills over into Facebook, although I don't respond on Facebook. So if you want an answer, it's on Instagram. I encourage people, if they do not want to miss events or lectures or, free stuff, to sign up for my newsletter, which you can do on Instagram or on my website, which is drvondawright.com. You'll find me there. And I don't want to give you lists.
Thank you so much for joining us today. I personally learned a lot. There are several strategies and tips that you mentioned that I'm going to start instituting today. And I think that it's something that all of us could take away, one or two things, maybe not every single thing right away, but at least trying to implement one or two of the items that you talked about to improve our longevity and our future health. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Pinnacle Podcast, where we strive to elevate the voices of women in medicine and inspire excellence across the healthcare landscape. Until next time, keep reaching for your pinnacle.